Hello and welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. How are you doing today? I'm always doing this technology check once I sign in. Looks like I've done everything right so far. How are you doing? So today's show, thank you for joining me, is a little different. I don't have a guest, I just have me. And I'm so excited to spend an hour with you. So in case you don't know, if it's your first time, this is the Dr. Elisa Show, and that's me. I have a PhD in educational psychology. I am also a trained astrologer, and I have numerous other degrees and experiences and trainings. And I bring those together here for you to hopefully ignite a renaissance of spirit within you, to help you think a bit differently about something in your life. Whenever I'm teaching, I tell people, I hope when you leave the room today, you have more questions than answers. That means I did something right. I inspired you to think differently, to probe just a bit deeper, maybe into your own life experience, maybe into who you are in the world, maybe into how the world functions. Whatever that journey is for you. And actually, that's what we're going to talk today about, your soul's journey. But before I do that, let's do a couple other things. I want you to know that you can still buy my book. I actually have 2 books out. The third one, I'll be meeting with a graphic designer tomorrow to get the cover. This is called The Way of the Well, and this is a spiritual journey. And in fact, I actually have workshops that I teach on this because it is connected to the Kabbalah and the Sefirot. So the gateways of the Sefirot, the 10 gateways. And each of the experiences the protagonist has in this book relates to those gateways and enhances her spiritual journey to Miriam's well. Yeah, there's some romance and there's a little bit of adventure, but it really is mostly that kind of a journey. So you can get it on Amazon, Way of the Well. If you find me there, you'll also find Pirate Wisdom, which I don't have a copy with me, and it's my leadership book, a la Jimmy Buffett and Johnny Depp, that I wrote with one of my writing partners, somebody who was actually my boss at the time. Hopefully, this third one, which is has a vampire and an octopus and a ghost dog and some romance in it, will be out soon, and I'll keep you posted. Also, what I like to encourage everyone to do, and if you've ever joined me on this show, you know, I want us each to be a philanthropist at the end of this year. And so this year, I am supporting the MS Society. I'm on the MS hike. The last weekend of July, and wow, we're in July, it's amazing. And I will actually be doing a show on the 29th about MS and about philanthropy. So write that down because there's a very good chance that you know somebody with MS or some other silent disease. And what I mean by that is somebody who looks fine and yet isn't. And MS is one of those types of diseases. And I raise money for it. Now, we've talked about being a philanthropist, and I've told you, $1 a week can make a massive difference in somebody else's life. There's so many ways to be a philanthropist, no matter how much we have or how little we have. You know what's interesting? This is actually a fact. People who have less tend to donate more. Don't you think that's fascinating? So that most of the donations that come in from people who have less money. And they donate middle-sized or small amounts. It is those donations that keep the social structure of our world going. Just a thought. And whatever level you can donate at, you too are a philanthropist. Okay, those are sort of the commercials. What I'm hoping is today's a little bit edgy for you because I've been a little, I don't know, predictable. And I'm a double Aquarius. I don't like being predictable. In fact, as soon as somebody tells me that they knew I was going to do that, I change my behaviors. It's pretty interesting how I respond like that. Today, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about your soul's journey. And I want to talk about the work I do. Because you haven't had a flavor of that since, oh, I don't know when. If you ever watched my Crystal Ball Hour, you got a taste of it. I also want to let you know that you can watch me live on Facebook and actually see me, for those of you who are just listening. You can also watch me live on Twitter. But if you're watching me live on Facebook, guess what? You can comment. So go to the Dr. Lisa Show or go to KUHS Denver on Facebook, and you'll be able to comment. And I'd love to have you comment. I really would. But if you could just make some comments, that'd be great. Katie, you're here on Facebook. I'm so excited. So let me know as this conversation goes on. Please join me in the conversation. Today it's just you and me, nobody else. Okay, so I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and I help people live life on the loose. And let me tell you what that means. Evolutionary astrology starts with the assumption that we were born for a reason. And our soul knows that reason, but it forgot. You know, being born is a lot of work, and we could be stressed out and we forget things. Like, what was my life mission? And we often come here then feeling like that is the work we need to do, find our life mission. And there's all these advice out there, right? All these, like, what did you like at 5? Well, I liked a lot of things that I don't like now. That's not working for me. Okay, what are you good at? I'm good at a lot of things I don't necessarily want to do, right? I'm a double Aquarius. I'm a little unpredictable. But where we want guidance, and so we search for that. Evolutionary astrology says that we can find the guidance in our chart. Now, I want to add to that. Life on the loose is about following your soul's journey. And there are lots of ways to find that. We'll get that. That's what we're going to talk about today. But first, let me define life on the loose. Somebody said to me, you don't live on the loose, you have a mortgage. That's my definition of life on the loose. I like having a house. Yeah, but you have to take care of it. Interesting point. Somebody said, well, you know, gypsies, people who have RVs, they're on the loose. Well, they're traveling a lot, yeah. One of my best friends has an RV, and you know what? RVs need tires and gas pumps and electrical system updates, and they have wiring and tubing, and things go wrong. They have to be taken care of. Oh, and she still has to deal with washing her clothes and cooking dinner. I sort of imagine a gypsy caravan, which sounds wonderful and romantic, but you got to take care of the horse, and you got to take care of the wagon. Oh yeah, and clothes and food. So life on the loose isn't about freedom without responsibility. It's the life you're choosing because it's in alignment with who you are at your deep level. Is it always easy? No, it's not always easy. You might struggle because life happens. It doesn't guarantee you instant success or amazing happiness, but it does guarantee you a sense of satisfaction, of alignment, of contentment, of knowing you're doing what you're supposed to do in the world. That's life on the loose. Sometimes it takes you in very interesting directions. So I have a story. Let me start with a story about how that can work. Sometimes we ask for something in our life, and we put all this energy into creating something. I want this, but you know, it takes time. I wanted to be a college professor. I had to go back and get a PhD. Sometimes there's middle steps. Sometimes we're not aware of what those steps are. And there's this fascinating story about a woman named Fatima, and I don't know where the myth is from, and I'm not really sure, but we'll go with it. I'll tell you the story. It's a young woman born into a family that makes rope, and very strong rope and thick rope, different than the rope most people are using. And she learns this trade at her father's side. One day he says to her, I want you to get on the ship and go out and sell our rope somewhere else. So she does. And there's a shipwreck. And she's a survivor, but she's lost everything, and she doesn't know where she is. And she's taken in by a kind family who makes cloth. And they say to her, learn to make cloth with us. It's a thick, kind of heavy, sturdy cloth, maybe the kind you would use for a sail. And she learns to make cloth. And they love her so much and they appreciate her so much that they ask her to then go sell the cloth. And yeah, there's another shipwreck. And she ends up somewhere else. And this family builds masts for a ship, right? Tall masts. And she learns how to do that because you don't just cut down a tree, right? There's an art to this, an art to all of this. And one day, you guessed it, when she's out selling the masts, again, something tragic happens. She loses everything. She's standing on a beach looking at the sky and saying, what do you want from me? But what she doesn't know is she's just landed on a beach in a land where there is a myth, a fable, of a woman who can build these miraculous buildings called tents. And she will show up and teach the people this skill. So the emperor, waiting to fulfill this prediction and prophecy, sends people out occasionally to look on the beach. And a man comes and he finds her and he takes her to the emperor, and maybe it's an empress, and says, the ruler says to her, can you build a tent? We've seen these amazing, huge tents, and we don't know how to do that. And she says, yeah, I can build a tent. I've seen those. First I need cloth that's really thick. Oh, we don't have that kind of cloth. Okay, I'll teach you how to make the cloth. She does that. Okay, now we need rope. Oh, the ruler says, we don't have thick rope. We don't know how to do that. Okay, not a problem. I'll teach you how to make thick rope. And then finally, she needs tall posts. And of course, they don't know how to do that, and she teaches them, and she is granted whatever her heart's desire, because she has built and constructed these tents. It's a lovely story because every step of the way she was sure this was where she was supposed to go, and then she was off course, or it fell apart. And in our lives, often, something falls apart, but it's only one step of the journey. It's not the end. If your life fell apart in 2020, like so many people, it's not the end of the story. It's part of the life journey. And when we can see that we have a longer journey, that we're going somewhere, we don't give up. We don't give in. We know, I learned this, I did this for a reason. If you're joining me, this is the Dr. Lisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. And if you jump into Facebook Live, the Dr. Lisa Show, you can comment. You can join me in the conversation. And by the way, you can find me. If you'd like to work with me, you can find me at elisarobin.com. I have a website. You can go there. I will help you find what your soul craves so that you can live on the loose. Okay, back to the story. Many of us have had lives like that. I'm on my third or fourth career. And each one ended kind of abruptly and left me kind of hanging. Though I have to say, eventually, what I realized was I needed to always have a plan B. I needed to know that this was just part of the journey. It was a chapter in a book. I needed to be ready for it to shift, for it to perhaps end, for me to be asked something different, for the universe to present me with something profoundly different. So I've been a geologist, my first career as a geologist, and when that ended, I ended up back in school and earned a PhD in educational psychology with no prereqs. It was kind of a struggle to get in. I'm very good at going in the side door. I have to point out that for some of us, the side door is what we need. This is not a criticism on anything. It's just that if somebody doesn't let you in the front door because you don't have the prereqs, you don't have the qualifications, there's always a way. And sometimes it's the side door. So I got accepted into the PhD program, educational psychology. Once you're in a PhD program at a university, you can usually wander around and take the other classes you want. So I did, built an unusual program. 4 years later, PhD. And it took me a while then to get the next job, but when I did, I was an academic dean almost overnight. And I've been an academic dean at 3 different places. The first was an art school. I didn't know anything about art, but I learned accreditation in art, which then meant that I was hired to be, eventually, the Dean of Arts and Sciences and to deal with accreditation. And then, because I had a degree in Ed Psych and I started online programs, I was hired to go create a program in Innovative Studies. And then I did that and ended up an academic dean there. And then when that ended, I could see it coming. I could feel it inside me. I knew the end was coming. You know, like when you're hiking a hill and you're hiking up those switchbacks, I could see the switchback. It had been a really, really long stretch, but I could see the switchback. I knew the end was coming. I started to prep. I knew that my journey wasn't ending, it was continuing, and those skills were going to go with me. And here I am, on the radio, a radio host on KUHS Denver, Restream, and a consultant, a higher ed consultant, and a mentor. I help people live life on the loose, using the keys they've left behind or the keys that they were born with about who they are. If you're listening, can you put a comment in the live chat on Facebook Live? And you can go to the Dr. Elisa Show and put in something there. Katie's there. You could join her. That would be really fun. Okay. Where are those messages? Don't you want to know? Where did we leave those clues? The Kabbalists thought there were 3 places we left those clues. 3. And you don't have to be Jewish, right, to use these 3. The first was our name. Now, if you are Jewish, you have a Hebrew name. If you're not Jewish, you can look up your Hebrew name. But the idea, much like the Native American idea, is that our parents hear our name. There's a still small voice inside them. Something resonates, and they hear our voice, and they give us a voice. Excuse me, I just said voice. They hear our name. They do hear our voice. They hear us talking to them before we're born, but they hear our name. And when we're born, we are gifted that name. They heard that name because it was going to be a guidance for us. Every Hebrew name, and I have a feeling other traditions have this also, every Hebrew name has something called a pisukim attached to it. A phrase in the scriptures, in the Jewish scriptures, where the first letter of the sentence starts with the first letter of our name, and the last letter of the sentence ends with the last letter of our name. And that line gives us guidance. I'll give you an example. My niece has kind of a shaky disease occasionally. It's a neurological thing. And she was really looking for guidance about what am I supposed to do with this in my life and how do I go forward. And so we looked up her Hebrew name and the Pisukim, and it was that Hashem causes the earth to shake as an earthquake, right? Wow. I had that engraved on a bracelet for her, that there's nothing wrong with her. This is part of her gift. This is part of her journey. That's 1. 2, when we're born, there is a scripture, a Jewish scripture, being read on that date. And we can find it. You can go to a website, what's my parsha? The word is parsha, meaning the portion that was being read. And the parsha has hidden meaning. Now you're all going, I don't want to read something out of the Bible. Yeah, I know. I got it. Well, some of you want. But you have to get what you're reading is a little tiny bit of a story, and you read it mythologically. You don't read it for history when you're doing this. You read it for like a fairy tale or a parable, and you find the gift in there. And I have worked with people where I have found the Pisukim for their Hebrew name, even if they're not Jewish, and this Parsha, and woven those together into a story that helps them find their life meaning. Now you can look these things up online. You can work with me. You can look me up online and you can work with me. So those are two. What's the third? The third is the one that I think I get the deepest and quickest results with. The third is in your astrological chart, and it is the north and south nodes of the moon. So let me just stop for a moment. If you're listening to the Dr. Lisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream, can you go to the Facebook site and go to the Dr. Lisa Show? Or go to, let me take a look at this, KUHS Denver, and you should be able to see me live there and to post. Okay, go to the Dr. Lisa Show. That's where it is on Facebook. You can also watch me live on Twitter, but you can't post there. But I'd really love it if you join me. Delia, thank you so much for joining me. I got Katie, I got Delia. Come on, I know there's probably another dozen of you out there who are a little hypnotized by my voice and want to know more. Give me some feedback. Tell me what if you've tried these out. Now, this last one is one that I adore. I love them all, but this one's so powerful. The idea is that the nodes of the moon give us information. So what's a node of the moon? You know, the Earth is going around the sun, and the moon's going around the Earth, and twice a day, the moon crosses the orbit of the Earth. And those 2 points are called the nodes of the moon. Now, I have read information back into the 1200s, the 1100s, where astrologers there, and the Kabbalists absolutely, were talking about the nodes of the moon. So this isn't something new. This is an astrological technique that people have been using. The south node of the moon is connected to your past life. If you don't like past lives, think of it as your epigenetics, or maybe your cultural heritage, or maybe your lineage, but your past. And the north node is what your soul craves. That sounds easy, but it's a little more complicated. The south node is both a gift and a danger. What's the gift? I have a south node in Cancer. I'm going to do my chart since I can't see your charts. I have a south node in Cancer. If you know the node of your moon and you put it in there, I can talk about the node of your moon. I have a south node in Cancer. What does that mean? It means I spent some past life very involved in caring for others, or perhaps feeling like I should be cared for. Could be either, it go either way. Cancer, as a astrological sign, is a lovely sign. But when we're talking about the south node, we talk about the dark side of it. And every sign has a light and a dark side. Trust me on that. So a Cancer south node, we start there. What does the Cancer south node mean? One of those 2 things. Was I taking care of too much and relied on others? Or did I spend my time invested in taking care of others and forgot to have a life? Which resulted in unresolved karma. Okay, so let's pause and talk about unresolved karma. In the West, we think of karma as something like, I don't know, in a past life you stole a horse, so in this life somebody steals your car. That's a pretty limited way of thinking about it. Think about unresolved karma as part of our life in the past that we didn't express correctly, we didn't live correctly, we didn't live to our fullest or at all. Imagine for a minute that you were someone in a past life who gave up your life to take care of somebody else or numerous someone else's, and people thought you were a saint, but you forgot to have a life. You left yourself out of the equation. Unresolved karma. Maybe you were doing something good that you thought was good, that was going to help others, like leave Ireland during the potato famine and come to America and send money back to your family. And the ship sank on the way over. Unresolved karma. Perhaps you were the victim of a crime or evil. And I've met a lot of people who have that in their chart. Or perhaps you were kind of evil in a past life. You did something wrong. You don't come here to be chewed up and spit out. You come here to resolve the karma, to become the person perhaps who gives to others, who understands why did you do that, and that came from fear, and how do I heal that in the world? Because when we heal our unresolved karma, and healing is not the right word, when we live our soul's journey, when we live that purpose, we then give to the universe. Imagine that each of us is a thread in this amazing tapestry. And if two of the threads decide to be red instead of blue, or maybe like go out to lunch, the tapestry no longer works. It is when we are our true self, our true color, our true meaning and purpose, that the tapestry can be completed or continued. Because I don't know when anything's absolutely completed. If you just joined me, you missed a great half hour. You can catch it later on my website, elisarobin.com. But this is the Dr. Lisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. And I'm talking about life on the loose, following your soul's journey. So, we've talked a little bit about what life on the loose is, and the tools and the methods you've left yourself. I've also mentioned I'd love to hear from you, so you can go to Facebook and go to the Dr. Lisa Show, and I am live, and I can watch you put your comments in there. And that would be so fun if you would do that. So, what does that mean? Unresolved karma, south node, north node. This is just like confusing, right? It doesn't mean that you abdicate responsibility in the world. That's another piece about life on the loose. And I just want to emphasize that. There is a Jewish saying that we are not obligated to complete the work, nor are we free to desist from it. So what does that mean? It means that our life journey influences everyone around us. We won't complete a task in our life, perhaps, but we will move things forward. You might just move kindness forward. You might have great kids who you teach to read, or you adopt, or you rescue dogs. There's a million and one ways that you can change the world by being who you are. That is not narcissistic. Narcissistic is when I'm sure I'm perfect and I am who I am and none of you matter. That is never your soul's journey. If you see somebody on that track, they're not doing their soul's journey. They're coming from fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of being exposed, fear, anger. I know that people say there's only two emotions, right? Love and fear is loss of love, lack of love. But I gotta say, I think there's a few more emotions out there. When we're terrified of finding our true self, though, often what we do is embrace anger, or restrictive belief systems, or abusive situations. You didn't come here to be abused, and you did not come here to abuse others. Trust me on that. That's not what a soul craves. Your South Node talks about that gap, right? That where you have unresolved karma. As I said, mine is in Cancer. If you can run your chart, if you've ever had your astrological chart run, you can find your South Node, and you could put it in the chat, and I could talk about your South Node. So Katie, do you know your South Node? Put it in there. Leia, I can't remember your South Node. Put it in there if you'd like me to talk about you. Or not, don't worry. If you'd love to know where your South Node is, you can run a free astrological chart, and your South Node will look like a cup, or an upside down horseshoe. horseshoe with the opening pointing upward. If it's not up there, if it's not on your chart, but there is a horseshoe pointing downward, that's your north node. And the south node is directly opposite it, opposite sign. Okay, so back to my south node. How do you know if a south node could be too much of this or too much of that? How do I know? Well, we look at the house that it's in. In my case, it's in my 8th house. 8th house is a house of struggle and difficulty often, of money, of things, of sex, of things that Freud may have talked about. But a south node in an 8th house said that there was danger involved. And again, this is probably more complicated. I need to see your individual chart. But the message is there. So what do we do? South node gives us two things. It gives us a gift. If you have a Cancer south node, you are always going to be able to open your heart and love. Always. You'll never lose that ability. But you need to work the north node, which is Capricorn, to create boundaries. If you have a south node in Aries, you're never going to lose the ability to be hot and fiery and on task and have a plan and go after it. But you need the calmness. You need the calmness to accompany that. So the opposite sign is always what you need. And I'm just checking to see if anybody is checking in with me today. No, come on, I'd love to have some more of you posting. Let's say you have, I don't know, an Aquarius south node. You need to develop your north node, which is Leo. Why? You'll never lose the ability to be innovative and to be revolutionary and to be a bit of a rebel and to think, in fact, not even out of the box. You can't find the box if you have an Aquarius south node. But to refine it, to be able to present it to others, to be able to actually do some good with that, you need to develop your north node, which is in Leo. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some other ways, but I want you to get that these are messages that are left in our chart. So we're born, we have a name, it has a guidance, like a little GPS device that says, go this way, or here's why you're here. There was a Parsha that said, here's the metaphor that you should think about when you think about your life, not the history, the metaphor. And then we have our chart and that north node that says, here is what your soul craves. Our entire chart and all the transits are designed to push us, to pull us, to entice us, to seduce us to that north node. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's a struggle. The south node feels easy. It feels right. It feels like this is what I know how to do. Yeah. But this is like that old saying that when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I got to tell you, when I opened my garage, there's quite a few hammers in there. I was married to somebody who was a carpenter, and I probably have 8 hammers left after giving away at least twice that many. But you know what? There's all those other tools in there too. And if you don't have just a hammer, all of a sudden you have a wrench and a screwdriver and a level and pliers and a saw and all these other tools. It's like that in life. We can't simply use the coping mechanisms we did as a kid. What worked at 2 doesn't work at 5 and sure doesn't work at 18. And what worked at 18 is never going to work at 35 or 40. We grow, we learn. That's what we're here to do. So am I hypnotizing you with my voice? Because you're not in the Facebook chat. And if you put some stuff there, we can talk. I'd love to hear from you if you're out there. If you're liking this kind of conversation and you'd like more astrology, not every week, but maybe every other, every third show, let me know, because then I could prep you in advance and you could put information in and we could talk about it. We can talk about your charts live on the radio. We can talk about your soul's journey live on the radio. Back to life on the loose. So, North Node. When I develop my North Node, I have boundaries. I build stability. I build a foundation. It's in Capricorn. That's what Capricorns do. It's in my second house. I build financial security so I can take care of myself. And you know what that means? It means that when my heart opens, I can be generous because I'm financially secure, because I'm emotionally secure, because I am helping where I am drawn to help, not where I feel like I have to or where I feel like I'll die if I don't, that there's something wrong with me. When we go to that North Node, we discover that we were born with a pure soul. Again, Jewish mysticism. The soul that I have been given is pure. I need to live that purity. And the purity doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, for gosh sakes. What it does mean is I'm trying, and I'm growing, and I'm getting that these are life's switchbacks, that what looks like a failure isn't really, it's a switchback, and then I go off on the next switchback. The thing about a switchback, it's a lot like tacking up wind if you sail. And if you've ever hiked, you know about switchbacks. If you've ever driven a mountain road, you know about switchbacks. Though none of those roads, none of those switchbacks, right, when you're on a stretch, none of them are actually pointed at your destination, which I think is fascinating. I'm getting closer, but I'm not directly focused on my destination. Why? Because I have to go far one direction and then make a turn and go far the other direction instead of going straight up the hill. And I learn things along the way, just like Fatima, just like me. I mean, geology degree, social science degree, hard science degree. I picked up a second master's in Jewish studies, perfect dean of arts and sciences. Oh, also a pretty good radio host after that experience of talking to large crowds. Professional astrologer, wow, link those things together. I didn't know I'd end up here, and I don't know what is next. I just know there's always a next. When we're living our North Node, we have the gift of the South Node and the strength of the North Node together. That is when life is working for us. And again, like I said, it doesn't mean we don't have responsibility. It doesn't mean that sometimes things don't go wrong. It does mean that we find the meaning and purpose in our life. We're not always searching for what's my passion, what am I supposed to do, who am I supposed to be. We're not searching for that anymore. We are alive in our life the way we are. I am just checking again to see how many of you have checked in with me on the website. All right, I still have Katie, I have Delea. I'd love to know who else is out there listening. Just put a hi in, or maybe just click like on the Dr. Lisa Show page on Facebook if this is resonating with you. If you've been wondering, what is my life mission? What am I supposed to do? I have to tell you, there are times when I feel like I'm not doing enough. The last institution I was at had a yearly ceremony where they honored students who had done amazing things. They were getting into the honor society, and in that honor society, you had to have done what we might call good works. Okay? Lived to certain values. And I would sit in that audience and hear about a 25-year-old who had been in a foreign country and tried to save animals there, or had gone and helped build a school, or maybe volunteered every week at the soccer camp, or on and on and on and on. And I think, well, what am I doing? I mean, those things don't happen to call to me, but does call to me. I've got to have some meaning and purpose in this life. And as I explored this North Node and realized the power of being secure and feeling safe, and how that let my heart open in completely different ways, I realized that was my gift that I shared with the world. That's the color of my thread in that tapestry. I can give to charity. I can be on this show and help you be a philanthropist, because I know that $1 a week changes lives. You may not think so, but it does. I can be on this show and ignite a renaissance of spirit in one or two of you. And in those two people, they will share an idea and they will change the world. Our actions ripple. And when I'm living my North Node, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm not feeling that I have to do this and I'll be punished if I don't. I'm joyfully participating in the world, which sounds a little more Buddhist, right? Joyfully participating in the sorrows of the world. Those things still hurt me, but I'm participating. And I can choose to what level. What level can my heart take? An example from my life. I give as much as I can to various animal charities. Sea Shepherd is one of my favorites. I cannot watch their videos. I know animals are being slaughtered. I can't watch the video. But what I can do is acknowledge that I know and donate money and sign petitions. I can do the work. I just am too emotionally overloaded by the visual. Some people can do that. They can actually go and be watchers and document. I can't. But I can do what I can do. And the fact that I took care of myself and my North Node first means I'm able to do that. Each of us has that mission. So that's why I'm saying that living your North Node isn't narcissistic. It's becoming your true self. And from that self, you can gift others. That's life on the loose, believe it or not. Life on the loose might be having 5 kids. Life on the loose might be choosing to not have any. Life on the loose might be like one of my best friends in her RV driving around. Life on the loose might be creating a warm, comforting space that people love to come visit. That when they're traveling, they stop and they stay with you for a while. It might be having a home where you can open your doors to others. And those opportunities show up because you're living your North Node. And all you have to do is say yes. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Katie, if you're listening, let me know. How is this working for you today? Just give me an idea. And Delea, if you're still out there on Facebook. I know so many of you are listening on the radio and you can't. Here's what you can do. You can go in later on Facebook and you can comment. And if you comment on the Dr. Lisa show later, I will respond to every single comment in one way or another. You can go to elisarobin.com. That's my website. And from there you can email me. Give me some thoughts. You can read my blogs. You can also look at the old shows on that website. There's so much on that website. It's fun. And you can let me know your thoughts. And if you email me, I will respond. You can join my mailing list. And then what will happen is I will send you out a copy of the show and my blog and information about what's next. And you can comment on that, and I will always respond. If there's another show of mine you've liked, one of the amazing people I've been on, you can let me know. You'd like to hear more of them. So what do I do once I say to someone, here's your North Node? Because I can't just leave you hanging there, right? Here's your North Node. Go do that. It's not very helpful. Here's my process. It's very simple. When I was at the art school, I learned about elegance. See? Everywhere I went, there was something meaningful. Elegance is not, trust me, always. I mean, it could be pearls and white tablecloths. That's an elegant look for some people, but elegance in art and in life has has a dimension, 2 or 3 dimensions. The first is symmetry, which doesn't mean you always repeat the pattern, but there's a symmetry to it. There's a reason that it flows. Look at fashion design, and you'll see when there is actually something that flows in the design, or architecture. It's not just repetitive and boring. Symmetry is things that align. They can be different, but they align. And so the first step is I ask someone, where are you in symmetry with that north node? And where are you not? Where are you still in symmetry with the harshness of the south node? Where the south node led you astray? Let's just figure that out. Okay. Now, look at that list of where you're in symmetry with the harshness of your life. Those are the things we need to subtract. Now, we can't just toss everything out immediately. It's not human to do that. It's difficult. It's scary. But we can start. We can subtract the elements of our life that are keeping us behind. And trust me, elegance means subtraction. It's part of it. Learned this from a guy I adore, Matthew May, that subtraction is often what makes the solution possible. Subtraction is what opens our heart. Subtraction is what makes something look elegant. Subtraction means we subtract an old way of thinking so a new way can enter. Subtraction means that we want to change how we dress, so we get rid of stuff as we bring new stuff in. Subtraction might mean that we have relationships that hurt us, and we let those leave so that we can open our heart to those that are true blessings in our life. We subtract. Because when we subtract, there are open spaces. And with those open spaces, we have room. And I have to tell you that open spaces are seductive. I like the word seductive more than I like manifesting. Manifesting sounds like I'm going to think it and I'm going to visualize it and poof, it showed up. We don't manifest from our brains. We manifest from enthusiasm, from our heart's craving and desire. That is in alignment with our soul. We can manifest a whole lot of things that are bad for us, just saying. But it's with enthusiasm. It's with emotional commitment. And when we have space, things are drawn to us. The reason we have to subtract is to create that space. The reason we have to understand the symmetry is we only want to let those things in that align with the North Node, our soul's journey, our true craving, what truly is good for us, what truly matters. That is when we manifest, when we create the world we really want to live in. And I know it's scary. Getting rid of stuff is scary. I have an easy rule to get you started. If you buy some new piece of clothing, an old piece of clothing has to go. It's always an exchange. You let go of stuff. Is it hard to let go of all of it? Do it one piece at a time. We cling so tightly to those things that often are hurtful or harmful for us because we don't believe there's anything else. Yet, if I don't let go, I don't create the space for that something else to enter. It's just so profoundly true. And often, yeah, a little bit scary and difficult. Because the old feels comfortable. We know that. We love our old pair of jeans more than our new pair of jeans. We love the old blanket that we've had forever more than the brand new one sometimes. We love the way who we were, even though who we were wasn't happy. At least we knew what to do. We knew how to behave, even if it was hurtful. Those are not in symmetry with our North Node. Those are not in symmetry with our life. And life on the loose is living in symmetry with our soul's journey. When we're able to do that, opportunities show up. I mean, the story of how I ended up here is so fun and so miraculous and serendipitous and had amazing synchronicity applied to it. And it's because I was willing to let go and open up to something new. Symmetry subtraction, seduction. Can you tell I have Scorpio rising, seduction instead of manifesting? But I will tell you that when we talk about manifesting in astrology, we often talk about the planet Jupiter. And it's the same thing. Get stuff out of the way so you can embed your enthusiasm in what you want. You can infuse your craving with enthusiasm. That is what manifests. But you have to get other stuff out of the way. Now, let me be very clear. This doesn't mean you abandon your family and run off to the gypsy wagon. We already had that conversation. It does mean you create space for yourself in your life. And again, your heart's craving might be 5 kids. It might be. That might be what you came here to do, because in some past life you couldn't. And that's lovely. There's no one right way to do this. No one right soul's journey. There's your journey. The one you came here to live. The thread you came here to add to this amazing tapestry. And I have to tell you that what makes me hopeful in this world, and it's so hard sometimes to be hopeful, is looking at the people who are invested in that tapestry, who change, who produce another generation in change. This upcoming generation is one of the most fluid and open-minded generations we've had in forever. They're not just taking things on, this is how we used to do it. They're exploring, they're asking, they're inquisitive, they're craving, they desire. And they need our help. That's one of the things we can all do as a mentor. We need to keep helping them be inquisitive and explore and ask good questions, because at the end of the day, it is when we ask good questions that we start to find the solutions. When we tell our story like a myth, that is when the solutions and the resolutions come up. Because when it's a story, we don't blame people. Think of all the great myths. Yeah, there's good guys and bad guys. But the heroine, the hero, the protagonist, takes responsibility for their actions and knows that if they live their story, the world will change. Any great myth, any minor myth, has that story in it. Star Wars, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, on and on and on. And you came here to live your own heroine or hero's journey, or your non-binary hero's journey. You came here to be that person, to be that thread, to keep the world moving and growing. And when you do that, the rest of us know that we can do it too. That no one will lose hope, because we know that we can do this. So, not many of you posted here, anywhere in the Facebook site. I'm going to guess that I hypnotized you with my voice. I'm also going to guess that you're so used to having other people talking on this show, you didn't know you should plan to be in front of your computer for my show. And I'm going to tell you that now I'm changing the format of the show from this point on. When I have a guest, they'll be on for half an hour, half the show, let's call that. And then I'll be talking for the rest of the show, weaving what they said into more of this, life on the loose. Weaving their story into my story and your story and our story. Why? Because I have a goal. And my goal is to ignite a renaissance of spirit within you, to share all of me, to tell you the story of how my heart has opened, and I feel safe. Both of those things are true now. That I know I have boundaries, and I can love freely and openly because I have boundaries, because of my North Node, South Node, because of whatever. I want to share these messages with you. I'm back in 2 weeks with a amazing poet. You can find her on Facebook, and I will post some information about her. So she'll be on for half the show, and I'll be on